must be rewritten. Egypt. Imagine a world where the story of ancient Egypt is not what we thought. The dusty pages of our history books are filled with tales of pyramids and pharaohs, grand temples, and powerful gods. But what if this captivating saga holds secrets we've yet to uncover? Picture a civilization far more advanced than we've imagined, with knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and art that defied the limits of their era. The connection between ancient Egypt and outer space has long sparked curiosity, and countless theories are embedded within Egyptian civilization. Many speculate that the precision of the Great Pyramids, particularly their alignment with the cardinal directions and celestial bodies like Orion's belt, is evidence of extraterrestrial knowledge. The great temples and monuments of ancient Egypt continue to fascinate and amaze people in the modern day. The sheer size and scope of structures like the Great Pyramid at Giza, or the Temple of Amun at Karnak, or the Colossi of Memnon are literally awe-inspiring and naturally encourage questions regarding how they were built. All across the Egyptian landscape rise immense structures, thousands of years old, which have given rise to many different theories as to their construction. Further fueling this theory is the mysterious Dendera light, an artifact in the Temple of Hathor that appears to depict a bulb-like object. Some researchers believe it shows ancient Egyptians possessing a form of electrical or light-generating technology, a concept that would have been far beyond their period's conventional knowledge. Additionally, ancient hieroglyphs and wall carvings, particularly those at Abydos, show objects that resemble modern-day aircraft or spaceships, sparking debate on whether these images suggest ancient contact with otherworldly visitors. Egyptologist Rosalie David comments on this. The Egyptians were noted astronomers who distinguished between the imperishable stars, the circumpolar stars, and the indefatigable stars, the planets and stars not visible at all hours of the night. They used stellar observations to determine the true north and were able to orientate the pyramids with great accuracy. Each temple was possibly aligned toward a star that had a particular association with the deity resident in that building. Over the decades, researchers have proposed a handful of possible celestial alignments for the pyramids, especially with the Giza pyramid complex. This famous site outside Cairo includes the Great Sphinx and three main pyramids: the Pyramid of Menkaure, the Pyramid of Khafre, and the Great Pyramid of Giza. But the pyramids were built in the decades around 2500 BC, during a period called the Old Kingdom of Ancient Egypt. So any celestial alignment they have with the night sky would have to match what the heavens looked like some 4,500 years ago. But in the 1980s, a researcher named Robert Bauval came up with a suggestion that has since buried itself in the minds of the public. He pointed out that there are similarities between the layout of the three pyramids of the Giza complex and the relative separation between the three stars of Orion's belt in the constellation Orion. The idea went mainstream in Bauval's 1995 New York Times bestseller, The Orion Mystery, which expanded on the notion that the pyramids were created to serve as a gateway to the stars. Bauval claimed that the constellation Orion governed the construction of all the pyramids. His idea came to be known as the Orion correlation theory. Today, it's considered a fringe idea in archaeology. Why? There's no physical evidence to prove an intentional correlation. Plus, there's nothing in Enigmatic texts indicating the pyramids were intentionally designed that way. Critics instead say that believers are succumbing to pareidolia, the human tendency to see shapes, patterns, and meaning in objects, even when no pattern exists. For example, seeing the face of the famous man in the moon. The three pyramids weren't all planned at once either. The Pyramid of Menkaure, which is much smaller and sits a little farther away, seems to have been an afterthought, according to leading researchers. So it's reasonable to think the distances between the monuments had no connection to the spacing between of the three stars of Orion's belt, or at least no intentional connection to the stars. Besides the lack of proof, the Orion correlation theory typically draws rolled eyes because it's often packaged with other unusual claims. The people who defend the idea most passionately are usually the ones also championing tales of ancient aliens and forgotten technologically advanced cultures. The Orion correlation theory emerged from the enigmatic discovery of two narrow shafts hidden within the Great Pyramid of Giza, extending from the legendary King's Chamber into the heart of the ancient structure. While some scholars propose these shafts functioned as air vents, the question lingers, why would the dead need oxygen? Other researchers suggest a far more profound purpose: pathways to the heavens themselves. In the 1960s, a bold group of Egyptologists put forth a groundbreaking idea. These shafts were not merely conduits for air, but celestial alignments pointing toward the stars that held deep significance in ancient Egyptian cosmology. Virginia Trimble and Alexander Badawi uncovered compelling evidence that one shaft directs its gaze toward the North Star, aligning perfectly with its position at the time of the pyramid's construction. The other shaft aims squarely at Orion's belt, a constellation steeped in myth and reverence. The Egyptians revered the pole stars, calling them imperishable stars, or the indestructible. These steadfast celestial bodies were intertwined with their beliefs about the afterlife, as pharaohs were thought to ascend and join them among the stars. As one inscription boldly proclaims, "I, the king, will cross to that side on which are the imperishable stars, that I may be among them." Orion, too, held immense significance. Its stars were believed to represent Sa, the progenitor of the gods. Yet despite their celestial orientation, the shafts were not designed for stargazing. With their obstructed exits and horizontal passages, they remain shrouded in mystery. For over 50 years, countless attempts to uncover the true purpose of these shafts have yielded little more than questions, deepening the intrigue surrounding the ancient pyramid and its connection to the cosmos. Beyond the shafts, there are other possible alignments to consider too. For example, sunset on the winter solstice falls above the Pyramid of Menkaure, as seen from the Great Sphinx of Giza. And the corners of the Great Pyramid of Giza also align well with the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Researchers have spent years trying to understand how the builders were able to align the pyramid so precisely. And most accept that the ancient engineers used the motion of the sun. So it's clear that the pyramids hold celestial significance and that they were built with a mastery of the sky in mind. Those ideas are not at all controversial. The controversy stems from the notion that each of the three pyramids were specifically positioned and oriented to represent Orion's belt. If you look at Beauval's overlay of the pyramid's placement and the stars of Orion's belt, you can definitely see the similarities. Yet the alignment still isn't perfect. But how exactly did the Egyptians build these things? The Great Pyramid is made of millions of precisely hewn stones, weighing at least 2 tons each. Even with today's cranes and other construction equipment, building a pyramid as big as that of Pharaoh Khufu would be a formidable challenge. As well, alien theorists often point to the fact that these three pyramids are in way better shape than others, built centuries later. Never mind the amount of work that has gone into preserving them over the past several centuries. So, are Egypt's pyramids artifacts of aliens? Not exactly. It's true that scientists aren't quite sure how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, and especially how they did it so quickly. But there's ample evidence that these tombs are the work of thousands of earthly hands. Egyptian civilization is not just about pyramids. Let's take a look into some of the fascinating discoveries and inventions. Coded writing. Along with the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians were the first people to develop their language into a codified form of writing. All early forms of writing were pictograms, pictures. All writing systems developed in this way, but their original forms become lost as the pictures are refined into abstract forms. What is interesting about the Egyptians is that although their writing changed to the abstract form of hieratic, they deliberately preserved the hieroglyphic pictures in their original forms. Papyrus sheets. Papyrus sheets are the earliest paper-like material. All other civilizations use stone, clay tablets, animal hide, wood materials, or wax as a writing surface. Papyrus was, for over 3,000 years, the most important writing material in the ancient world. It was exported all around the Mediterranean and was widely used in the Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. Its use continued in Europe until the 7th century AD, when an embargo on exporting it forced the Europeans to use parchment. Black ink. The Egyptians mixed vegetable gum, soot, and beeswax to make black ink. They replaced soot with other materials such as ochre to make various colors. The ox-drawn plow. The ox-drawn plow. Using the power of oxen to pull the plow revolutionized agriculture, and modified versions of this Egyptian invention are still used by farmers in developing countries around the world. The sickle. The sickle is a curved blade used for cutting and harvesting grain, such as wheat and barley. Irrigation. The Egyptians constructed canals and irrigation ditches to harness the Nile River's yearly flood and bring water to distant fields. Shaduf. It is a long balancing pole with a weight on one end and a bucket on the other. When the bucket is filled with water, it can be easily lifted and then emptied onto higher ground. The calendar. Before, the solar calendar was devised by the Egyptians through recording the yearly reappearance of Sirius, the dog star, in the eastern sky. It was a fixed point which coincided with the yearly flooding of the Nile. Their calendar had 365 days and 12 months, with 30 days in each month and an additional 5 festival days at the end of the year. However, they failed to account for the additional fraction of a day, and their calendar slowly became incorrect. Ptolemy III added 1 day to the 365 days every 4 years. Clocks. In order to tell the time, Egyptians invented 2 types of clock. Obelisks were used as sun clocks by noting how their shadows moved around the ground throughout the day. By using obelisks, they could identify the longest and shortest days of the year. An inscription in the tomb of the court official Amenemhet, dating to the 16th century BC, shows a water clock made from a stone vessel with a tiny hole at the bottom, which allowed water to drip at a constant rate. The passage of hours could be measured from marks spaced at different levels. The priest at Karnak temple used a similar instrument at night to determine the correct hour to perform religious rites. Surgical instruments. The Edwin Smith Papyrus shows the Egyptians invented medical surgery. It describes 48 surgical cases of injuries of the head, neck, shoulders, breast, and chest. It includes a list of instruments used during surgeries with instructions for the suturing of wounds using a needle and thread. This list includes lint, swabs, bandage, adhesive plaster, surgical stitches, and cauterization. It is also the earliest document to make a study of the brain. The Cairo Museum has a collection of surgical instruments which include scalpels, scissors, copper needles, forceps, spoons, lancets, hooks, probes, and pincers. Cosmetic makeup. The Egyptian invented eye makeup as far back as 4000 BC. They combined soot with a lead mineral called galena to create a black ointment known as kohl. They also made green eye makeup by combining malachite with galena to tint the ointment. Both men and women wore eye makeup, believing it could cure eye diseases and keep them from falling victim to the evil eye. Mummification. The Egyptians were so expert at preserving the bodies of the dead that after thousands of years, we know of the diseases they suffered, such as arthritis, tuberculosis of the bone, gout, tooth decay, bladder stones, and gallstones. There is evidence, too, of the disease bilharziasis, schistosomiasis, caused by small parasitic flatworms, which still exists in Egypt today. There seems to have been no syphilis or rickets, so that's the wrap, folks. If you like this video, then share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.